Welcome back to another Mobile Centrics Tips and Tricks. My name is Derek, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about soldering. A frequent question that I'm asked is, what all do I need to solder? Today I'm going to be going over all of the basics, the tools that you're going to need, and the repairs that you should start on so that you can start to become proficient and expand your capabilities within the industry. Let's get into the video. Let's start with the basic repair tools that you'll need. Obviously, you'll need a soldering iron. Now, there's a variety of different soldering irons out there. Obviously, when you start out, getting something that's cheaper is probably the best way to start. And as you become more proficient and as it makes sense to upgrade to a more expensive machine, something that you can exchange tips between with more temperature control and other functions, that'll come with time. You'll need solder. There's many different types of solder. There's leaded solder, lead-free solder, and there's many variations of the temperature or the melting point of the solders. Things like a low melt, like a 138 degree, a 148, a 153, a 183, a 217. These are all different melting points, which basically consist of a different makeup of the solder itself. Having a variety is nice depending on the repair that you're doing. And there's basically two different types of solder. Solder wire, and the other is solder paste. A solder wire is typically a flux core, which makes it easy to use because there's kind of flux embedded in the solder, and they come in a variety of different thicknesses. And it can be very useful depending on what you're working on. And the other is solder paste, which is microscopic solder balls that are encapsulated in flux that it can be really useful because you can deposit the exact amount that you want, where you want it, and I find it to be what I prefer for most repairs. The next thing you'll want is flux. There's a variety of different fluxes with different viscosities. They each have their own burn point, where under specific temperatures for specific times, they will start to burn or become tacky. There are some fluxes that are more tacky, which are preferred for specific repairs, or less tacky. Some that are easy to clean up, some that are not. Some that are considered no clean flux, which means they're designed to not have a negative long-term effect if left on the board. And it really comes down to a personal preference, in my opinion. There are some really good fluxes out there, but flux, if you don't know what flux is basically, think of it like a shield to the solder. It's almost like a cleaning solution that coats the solder and prevents it from oxidizing, which has the effect of allowing it to flow much easier to the surfaces that the solder can stick to. So it prevents oxidation and just makes your life easier. So you might hear a lot of text saying flux is your friend, and that's true. You can almost never go wrong with too much flux. The next thing that you'll want is a wick. Wick is basically a copper braid. When coupled with flux, acts kind of like a sponge to absorb soldering. And this is really helpful, especially on logic boards that have through holes, like an HDMI or some type of USB charge port, where the legs go through the logic board, and in order to get them to seat properly through there, one of the ways to do it is to wick out the holes. It also will assist in wicking off excess solder or removing a low melt solder if it was used to assist in the removal of a component, so that you can replace it with a higher melting solder. Lower melting solder tends to be weaker than a higher melting solder, and it also has differences with conductivity. Some solders don't pass current as well as others. You'll also want some cleaning supplies like 99.9% isopropyl alcohol. There are few other solutions that help clean up flux, but having brushes, Q-tips, clean room wipes, things like that is also something that comes in handy. Now, whenever soldering, a set of tweezers really helps, and there are a variety of tweezers, everything from really fine tip tweezers to a much more bulky tweezer, and they each have their role. And one of the things that I find to be vital within the soldering realm is a really good hot air rework station. Now, not all solder jobs require a rework station, but a good portion of them do or can be done or are more easily done with a rework station. Now, one of the repairs that I suggest that you get into if you haven't soldered much before is to replace a USB charging port. Most Android devices come with a daughter board that has a charge port soldered to it. Daughter boards are extremely easy to work on because there isn't much thermal mass behind them, which means that desoldering them and soldering a new one on doesn't require as much heat as, say, a console repair for an HDMI, where the thermal mass in those logic boards is extremely high, pulling the heat away from the area that you're working on, making it much more difficult to work on because you have to get to such extreme temperatures. So learning how to use the different solders to remove and replace charge ports on the daughter boards on Android devices, not only does it save you a little bit of money when it comes to the repairs, but it also builds up your skills so that you can tackle something like a Nintendo Switch charge port or an Xbox or a PlayStation HDMI, and then you can get into the realm of working on, say, Apple devices. Now, the easiest solder job, in my opinion, is a charge port on an iPad. The flex cables have a through-hole technology, which is really easy to solder to. Basically, the solder can travel through the pad itself because there's a hole in it down to the pad on the board, and it's really easy to solder because there tends to be guides to line up the solder joints, so it makes it really simple. Beyond that, once you get proficient at soldering all of those, then it's time to move on to replacing connectors on logic boards. FPC connectors are somewhat of a challenge to replace depending on their location, but it's one of those things where you start to get used to using both a rework station and a soldering iron either simultaneously or throughout the same repair. And then you'll find yourself proceeding into logic board repair, where you're able to remove shorts, separate sandwich boards, and fix issues like service issues, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, charging issues, audio issues, you name it. The repairs on the logic board seem to continue no matter which generation comes out. There's always issues within the soldering realm, and this being able to fix these issues is, in my opinion, something that everyone's going to have to do for longevity. Now, I know we started getting a little bit more complicated there, but hopefully that gives you an idea of where to start and where you can start to see yourself down the road. If you have any questions or think that there's something that I left out of the basics for getting into soldering, leave it in the comments below. Thanks a ton for watching. We'll see you in the next video.